everybody, to Duel-cast, where we build pyramids out of cards, and then our friends slowly pick them out and make us build them again. Here's my co-host, Jeremy.
That's me, Destroyer of Worlds.
Destroyer of Worlds. And that's Kevin over there.
I'm doing well, by the way.
Okay.
You know, I figured you forgot to ask, so I would just throw that out there.
He didn't care.
I know.
I want to get to the content.
John cares, though.
John cares.
Screw John.
I couldn't help but notice this week, Kevin, that who is your guy?
Larry.
He didn't show up. I didn't see him there.
He didn't?
Oh man, he didn't.
I actually didn't check the
I glanced through. I intentionally made sure that we had a couple of write-in options just so people had that.
No, it's cool, Larry. It's cool.
Larry's had a long week.
No. Yeah. No, it's cool.
So this week we're gonna bring you some more Duelist goodness. We hope that you've enjoyed the first video that we posted last week. We're going to be doing a lot of playing around with how we deliver content in that form. Me personally, I just feel like there's a lot of people out there doing video content, and it's a good way to deliver content. Not getting me wrong, but one of the ways that we distinguish ourselves is by being the only people that are inconvenient enough to make you just listen to us without looking at anything.
Well, I mean, convenient for some. I do feel like some of the younger folk don't really know what a podcast is and want to read a transcript of it.
They want a textbook.
Or just, play it on YouTube. But
yeah.
It's odd to me to think that you're saying that the younger folk... The podcasts live in this obscure little gap of media delivery where if you're of a certain age, you have no idea what they are. And if you're of another age, you also have no idea what they are. But if you're in this pre-millennial, but post Gen X, that you know exactly what they are,
Yeah, I mean,
you don't know what generation that he's describing, but you know exactly what a podcast is.
I mean,
right.
I feel like it also has to do with interest, right? Like, I mean, I guess there's a podcast for just about anything, but
so you're saying not interesting? Is that?
No, I'm saying depending on what the individual is interested in, he might not have been introduced to podcasts, like a topic. But maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah, I feel like there are literally, all the time I'm finding out about podcasts. I'm like, what? I didn't know that was a podcast. I mean, and there's a lot that, not all of them are bad. Just some of them are obscure.
And I generally don't listen to podcasts.
Just last week, I told Jason about this podcast called Duel-cast, and he was like, really?
Really?
I'll have to check that out. Sounds
like one of those guys is wicked annoying. So this week we're really gonna be talking about some strategies in playing the game,
strategizing,
some things to think about at the early stages and then the late stages. We're really not gonna dig into the middle stages because we decided there's a lot of options, and
and we ain't got time for that.
Yeah, at some point down the road, we'll probably break out some video review of, plays to make and things to think about in the middle somewhere where things are really wide and robust. But for the most part, we kind of just want to lay out some step 1, 2, 3 to open out your game, and then things to think about when the game's late and you've got that whole, what I like to always say, either win next turn or they win right now. So, a lot of games.
That's what I'm getting you for Christmas, a shirt that says that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sell it on the website.
There we go.
Well, you should also get him a T-shirt that says "It was closer than it looks."
It was.
Yes.
Every time Jason
That's
plays
actually a
Song
better
High.
one. That's actually better. I just wanted you to see how close it really was.
Exactly. Why did you play all your hands, all the cards in your hand? Well, I just wanted to make sure that
I wanted
you
you to
knew
see that,
the terms
that
of
you
the
were
game.
closer to dead than you thought.
Which
Said
it
the
turns
dead
out,
man.
yeah, it turns out 3 points away from dead is really far away from dead when you're dead
It's
yourself.
yeah.
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 Yep. So I can't wait until we start talking about the beginning, turn 1, because I know that we're gonna have
Well, we got 20 minutes before we get there.
argument.
I've got a lot of ranting to do before we get to that point, my friend. Have you seen about this whole Korea stuff? Let me tell you what.
Come on, man.
Well, someday
Alright.
someone's gonna write, I liked your podcast, but you were too political.
No, I don't.
And it's
I
gonna
don't
be
think
me.
so.
It's gonna be me.
It's
I'm gonna be the one that writes
Yeah.
that comment.
Yeah. So, before you do, why don't
Jason's
you go?
just gonna comment wrong.
Wrong.
Trump gif or something like that.
I'll tell you what. After World War III, I'm gonna play all the cards in my hand and say it was closer than it looked. Okay, I want us to know. So, how are we gonna start this? Turn 1. You got cards in your hand.
Turn 1.
So
Yes.
yeah, so turn 1, you never want to do nothing, right? Like that
Good
feels bad.
advice.
For
Yeah,
the
never-
most part. For the
For the
most part.
yeah, there's some scenarios where maybe you slow roll your opponent, but that's usually only if you're going first. If you're going second, you almost never want to play nothing when you have 3 mana, because
If you ever do not play nothing, it's usually you have a really, really top end hand, or just like cards do not apply to the situation.
right, you got a super control hand or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, you want to play something on turn 1, whether it's for 2 mana or 3 mana, depending on if you're going first or second. And build your deck with that in mind. Like 2-drops usually aren't the most impactful cards, right? Like they have some utility and they do some stuff, but you want to have enough of them, because not doing something on turn 1 can set you where you're playing catch up the entire game, and your opponent pretty much has initiative the entire game. And what I mean by that is, if they play something before you do, their stuff, for the most part, unless your things have rush, get to attack and hit your stuff before you get to do anything. So they get to choose, how they get to control the board first, have a crack at controlling the board first, which is why it's so important to make sure you're doing something on your first turn.
And I think the biggest disagreement, at least with us and Jason, would be that
I'm the listener. I embody their opinion.
I don't know that you do. I would be surprised if there are many people who are like, yeah, you know what? I always play nothing on my first turn. That's my strat.
right.
Well,
And the thing we're talking about is if you're playing Azure Herald, or to a greater degree Falcius, or some sort of opening gambit on turn 1, and it doesn't affect the battlefield, it's just kind of like a wasted ability.
No value.
Jason finds it very hard to play those, or when we're playing against him, he's just like, oh man, you just played that for no value, you suck, man.
No value. You don't want to really
no
leverage
value
that.
all day.
I mean, I guess if you're not leveraging your cards, it's fine. It's how you want to play. I'll be glad to beat you. So, while we're on the topic, and since you set me up for this, I want to say 2 things. One, I like to hit that nerve when we're playing, because that's the kind of guy that I am. And I think
He's playing mind games.
I think the listeners know, and the listeners ought to know too. I loved the one thing you don't get in digital games that you do have in like Magic is there is and for there's probably a good portion of our listeners, depending on their age, that they play Duelist as an electronic game, but they're probably gamers in general, which means that they like to play in-person board games, card games, etc. Some of them probably came from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic or something like that. And I love, it's one of my favorite parts of a game, is the fourth wall in games, right? There's a fourth wall in theater, which is you don't acknowledge the audience, right? There's that we're putting on an act, we're putting on a show. That act exists in games, and I loved sitting down at a game of Magic and tempoing my plays to indicate to my opponent certain things, right? Like, I'm going to play fast to make them feel rushed, or I'm going to pause when I want them to think that I might have a play that maybe I don't, right? So poker players know this. Like, there's that bluffing is a real thing, and you can bluff for the positive or the negative. And sometimes just saying something like, no value, man, no value, puts your opponent enough on tilt that, you know, that mental leverage, you know, and obviously when we play, we're normally discording or something with each other so we can talk and interact. But most of your opponents don't get that. So you can't, it's harder to convey little things like that.
I mean, that's where the emotes come into play.
Yeah, you
Right,
just do like
exactly.
sad emote when they play their healing mystic and don't heal anything, and
Or
Yeah.
you just do the laughing lion or face is always
Exactly.
a good, like you're like no value.
But in reality, I do depending on the deck. So I want to say this because depending on the deck, I will play that 2-drop card for no value. But I just so happened to be playing recently, and depending on what clips Kevin uses for this, video that might be playing in the background, maybe you're going to be watching this on YouTube. You might see this. I built a Sage Thunderclap deck. I had it before. I kind of brushed it off, made a couple little tweaks to it, and I'm running it in. I've been running it on ladder, and it's been doing okay. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly the kind of deck that doesn't want to play any of those cards on turn one, and I will always forego them because it doesn't suit the play style of the deck. So I'll say this. If you have a Healing Mystic and you have to play it on turn one because that's the only 2-drop you have, fine. I mean, no value, but fine. Because you want to have, like Jeremy was saying, you want to have something to put down. But this deck that I'm running happens to be super mid-range, happens to be really thick at the 3 and 4 drops. And because I'm running Thunderclap, and because of the nature of Thunderclap, which is a 4-cost artifact that whenever your general destroys a minion, it deals that killing blow, you get a copy of that minion respawned randomly around your general. So basically you get a tempo swing because you're taking a creature and you're getting it for free. So you're getting a free creature, and so it's almost a 2-for-1, and the exchange is your life total, right? So you're exchanging life for card tempo. So what I have is I have the Azure Heralds and the Healing Mystics in the deck. I also have Ephemeral Shroud. I also have Pax, and I also have Rash's Curse. Those are all 2-drops, right? Except for Pax, none of them get played on turn one in this deck for me, because it's so important that I have Azure Herald or Healing Mystic to get my life total back that I'm going to trade for that tempo in the middle of the game somewhere, that if I play it on turn one, then not only is it no value, but it's ruining the strategy of the deck, right? That Azure Herald is not a turn one play. It's never a turn one play. It's not there. It costs 2 mana. It can go down on turn one. depending on the matchup, I mean, there might be a scenario where I see the matchup and I go, oh, this guy is playing, I don't know, maybe I think he's going to play an Abyssian aggro deck, and I just want that Azure Herald down to eat up those 1 toughness dudes. But sometimes those utility 2-drop creatures are so critical to your strategy in the deck that it's just not a turn 1 play. So I'm not saying that you never play them on turn 1. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you as the player who built the deck, unless you're just kind of learning the deck, and we've talked about this before, where you'll have a deck and you have to know how to play that deck. Jeremy might have a deck that he goes 7-0 with on ladder or something, and then he says, hey Jay, I'm hot on this deck, and I go, cool, let me build it, and then I go 0-3 with it before I get a win, because I have to learn, like if I gave this deck list to you, Jeremy, or you, Kevin, you might not go like 6-0 like I am right with it right now, because you're going to play Azure Herald on turn 1 because you want to get that guy down.
I really probably would.
Yeah, and you would, and it would be 100% wrong, because that's not what the card is even in the deck for, right? Like if I thought I needed a turn 2 creature, I'd take Azure Herald out and I'd put a different card in, because that creature is only there to recoup my health.
I don't think that's the only reason you put Azure Herald in. You put Azure Herald in because it has utility turn 1, because you play it, you can take a tile with it, and then later on it still serves a purpose because it gains you life. So I don't think you put Azure Herald in your deck only when you need the heal, so you never play it on turn 1. I think you put it in your deck because it's a good 2-drop that you play on turn 1 if it's in your hand, and you take a tile and then you play a 4-drop the next turn, or on turn 6 you play that with another card and you gain some life.
Right. No, I'm not saying it broadly. I'm not saying the card is in this deck only to gain me life. I'm saying the card is in this deck, this specific deck, this specific build with these other cards, right? Like Azure Herald, it's true. Everything you just said is 100% true, generally speaking. Not for this deck. For this deck it's more important for me to have that health and body mid or late game, because I'm going to be using my general as a beater, so I need to get that life back, than it is for me to maybe get a mana tile a turn earlier, or to body block, or whatever the case may be, right? You just laid out all the scenarios. So and that goes to the deck and the card. It's not just the card on its own right. I just want to make sure that we're being clear that, hey, listener, you might have built a deck that, sure, it might be true that Azure Herald is a utility card that goes well early and late game, but depending on your build and your play style with that deck and your matchup, maybe look, I'm Magmar, I'm going face a lot, I need that life later, I don't care about turn 1.
Would you consider like Amara healer instead of Azure Herald?
Healing Mystic, you mean?
Yes, yes, I have that. I have 3 of those.
I mean Amara,
right?
just because.
I mean later on.
Just because if he's not playing it on turn 1 or whatnot.
Yeah.
And if it's just to heal him, I feel like Amara. I mean, unless it gets dispelled or something, it's really good just because of the provoke and the heal and the damage.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're being clear that if you're playing the deck that Jason's playing, right, you don't play a 2-drop on turn 1. But I think that is an extreme exception, that most of the time you want to play something on turn 1, even if, as Jason would say, to get you to tilt for no value. It feels you'd prefer to gain the life, but the flexibility of being able to take a tile to body block to just prevent your opponent from gaining the upper hand and board position right away is way more valuable than that life gain if you're holding on to it, for a turn, because then what happens is the card becomes, hopefully then you're not playing it until, turn 6 or 7, because you don't want to be playing your 2-drop on when you have 3 mana. You want to be playing a 3-drop, and then you want to play a 4-drop, and so on. And so then it becomes kind of a dead card for a little while. Sure, it gains you life later on, but I'm definitely of the mindset that you want it 98% of the time to drop it if you have it in your hand to start, so that you're establishing board position. It's hard to kill. Like Tiger doesn't even kill it. So we're talking about the Herald. You're almost certainly going to be able to take that one of those corner tiles with it. And that's, in my mind, to be able to ramp into a 4-drop on turn 2 is way more important than some life gain later on, because I'm essentially playing a game where I don't care. We're not going to get to the late game. My life total is going to be irrelevant because I'm ramping and I've taken control of the middle of the board with, I don't know, Sunsteel Defender or some good 4-drop that is hard to deal with.
No, that's true. I think that Saber Spine is a really good example of another reason why you need to be mindful of a matchup and the deck over a hard and fast rule, right? Because even though Azure Herald doesn't die immediately, it 100% trades with, it's still a 1-for-1 with Saber Spine, and you're still going to be able to reposition onto the mana tile and play the extra card, but you're at that point you're only on tier with your opponent, and then you're not, depending on how you're leveraging for mana, you're not taking the center, because you're gonna try to take a mana tile, move up or down to the opposite tile to cast onto that to get that mana tile to play more cards out. So you're not playing like you're trying to kind of tempo out ahead of your opponent, who, like, and we're assuming obviously you're on the play on your first turn, but
yeah.
But
I mean, I'm
trading
fine
cards.
Right, but I'm fine if my opponent wants to trade their Saber Spine Tiger for my Healing Mystic. I'm okay with that. Like, my 2-drop, sure, I didn't get the tile, but they used a pretty decent 3-drop that's basically, a short range Phoenix Fire, and took out my 2-drop. So yeah, I'm a little sad that I'm not getting that tile, but they used a removal spell, and I'm ahead on mana, and they didn't develop nothing's on the board now. So I still have first crack at controlling the board. And that's why it's important to have that first thing on the board, because even if they trade into it, they play a Tiger or they play a removal spell to kill it, you're still ahead. Sure, they 1-for-1'd you, but now I get to play the next thing, and it's going to get to attack.
I mean, I think that there's also the degree where you're trying to be mana efficient and using up the mana and not just passing with 2 mana, because you're not using any of that mana. So you're going to have to, it's going to roll into next turn where you're not going to be able to play exactly what you want, maybe.
You're not ahead on cards, but you get the advantage of playing the next thing that's going to be able to move and attack. And that's important. When the board's empty, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and that's why playing something on turn 1 is important.
It is true. It is true. I think that the Saber Spine argument is a rough argument when you make it, because it's an exception to the whole scenario that you're laying out, I think, because it literally reverses the whole thing. So your argument saying, like, you get first action, you get first call. Well, Rush is first action. So your opponent with more mana immediately gets to flip that, because they trade that card in. They're ahead on mana, and they get first action.
They're not ahead on mana.
They start with more mana, and they have a mana
right,
spread
but they
immediately.
spent 3 to kill your 2-drop. So,
Well,
But
I mean,
they-
it-
but they
I
turn-
mean, if
but
it's
you're
Azure
behind.
Herald, doesn't even kill it.
right.
But the point being is, it kills it. It kills it the next turn, assuming that you attack back into it, because you don't want to have to deal with a 3/1 that's going to deal. Because if you don't attack back into it with Azure Herald, that Saber Spine dealt 6 damage instead of 3.
Sure.
So
Yeah, and that's why you attack into it. But imagine you didn't play a 2-drop. They get to do whatever they want, and now you have to have a rush minion to try to even that. And that's why you get not playing something on turn 1, you get so far behind, because your opponent, they have more mana and they're playing the first thing. That's a big thing to overcome when you're trying to, trade things in and trying to keep parity on the board. The one who gets to act first does have an advantage, provided they have something to do.
yeah, the point being is, Azure Herald aside, Saber Spine flat out kills a lot of turn 1 plays. Just flat out trades in. The game resets. Assuming the game resets,
It's also more expensive.
but it's not for if you're on the draw. If you're on the draw, it's a wash, because you start with, it's effectively just a turn 1 play. It's not effectively, it is 100% just a turn 1 play. You played Azure Herald for 2 mana efficiently. I played Saber Spine for 2 mana efficiently, but I also get the opportunity to take a mana spring with it, so I get 4 mana, and I make you reset. So when I pass back to you on your turn 2, you're where I was a second ago, because you get 3 mana and now a mana tile. You are behind me 100%. And depending on that turn, creature,
they are not behind the
But
opponent.
don't you think you'd be in a worse situation if you didn't play anything?
no, I don't think so. I'd trade
Straight
through life.
up behind.
No, I'd
No, they
trade
don't
through
play their
life.
tiger
I mean,
into your
they wouldn't
face.
play the tiger face though. They play like a 3/4 instead or something.
Yeah,
Or 2 minions.
right. 2/2 drops.
But my
Like,
point is
You're way worse off if you do nothing in that scenario. Way worse off than if they trade their tiger.
For example, if I'm Vitruvian and I have Falcius, if I'm playing a reactionary deck, maybe I'm Vanar. So there's a play style that says I'm reactionary. I don't have a creature that I want you to react to with a rush creature or something. I'm reactionary. I have a spell to destroy your creature. I have something to do when you cast something. I want to respond to what you're doing. Maybe I don't play something on turn 1. And again, guys, you guys aren't wrong. You guys are 100% right. I'm just throwing out the counter arguments that are,
but it's such
not
a
hard
small
and fast rule.
But I think you're making it seem like it's way more common than it is. Like, you don't want to do that very often, like ever.
No, I don't think I think there's a decent amount of, again, it's like if you're an aggro deck, what do you want to do? You just want to go face with everything, right? Like, I just want to deal a lot of damage as quickly as possible. I'm going to, like, Kevin, you've talked about this in some of your decks that you built when we've talked about, I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, but we've talked about it in just conversation, where you say, oh, I just feel like you just kind of ignore that card, right? Like, there's cards that are kind of get big and out of control and crazy, and you've said, like, I feel like I just have to ignore it because I don't have anything to deal with it directly. And my thing with this deck that I'm playing is I'm going face. So I'm just going to assume or hope that I can go face bigger and faster than that card, whatever it might be, gets out of control. So you're in a race, right?
Yeah.
Is that right to do all the time? No. Is it right to do in the deck that you're playing? Yes. And that's my point, is there are subsets of decks. Is it all decks? No, absolutely not. Is it some mid-range control-y decks? 100%. I would say most control decks aren't interested in a turn 1 play if they don't have.
I disagree so much with that.
I just don't understand why you would think you have less control if you get some board control by playing a minion.
Yeah. You have more control in a control deck if you have a turn 1 play.
For
Even
example, this deck that I've been playing, the Thunderclap deck, I would rather play nothing on turn 1 and just walk up, have you play something, and then just Falcius and kill it. I switch the tempo.
But what? Yeah, but
I killed your thing.
how
and
is
I
it
have a
different if
creature.
you play a 2-drop and then play Falcius? And
Because
kill
because I'm not going to play Ephemeral Shroud, a 1/1, just to get mana. It's not worth it to me. I need that Ephemeral Shroud to answer your, I don't know what it is, but your Emera healer or something. That's more important.
I rarely play Ephemeral Shroud on turn 1 just because of the body. Because like it does virtually nothing, and if I'm not trying to ramp, I like if I play that in turn 1, I really want to ramp into mana, and I need that play. But it's still kind of risky playing that.
And using
but
Azure
Ephemeral Shroud
Herald
isn't
as
really a 2-drop though. Like really,
it costs
you don't
2
want to
mana.
play it. Like, yes, but you don't put it in your deck to play. You put that in your deck.
Jeremy, you
as a
just
removal spell.
you just repeated me. That's my point. Is Ephemeral Shroud might be a solid case for this is never a 2-drop or a turn 1 play. But my point is Azure Herald isn't always. Azure Herald might far more often. I would agree with you that like 90% of the time, just play it on turn 1 if you've got nothing better to do. But if you're playing a control deck or a deck where it is more important to you that you get 3 life back in 2 or 3 turns from now, then don't play it on turn 1 because it's just as bad as playing a 1/1 that silences something. That's all my point is my point is there are strategies, there are builds of decks, there are other modes of play that don't one lane a card and say, okay, my rule is if I have a 2-drop, regardless of its utility, I just play it on turn 1. You got to look at your matchup. You got to look at your deck. You got to look at your hand even, because maybe look, I'm gonna do something. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna play Cryptographer and get my hero power off. I'm Magmar, and I'm just gonna go face and do some silly stuff. And then the next turn, I want to get that life back, and I'll play Azure Herald then. Yeah, I'm just spitballing thoughts here, but the point being is, I get that you disagree with me that I think that some control decks don't care that it's the only 2-drop in their hand. They want that 3 life back because of, you name the strategy. It's still a thing. It still exists, and there's still, I think, a good amount of people that would need to acknowledge the fact that that's a better play. In some cases.
In a statistically small amount of cases.
I don't think. I think we both think the other person's exaggerating here.
I can kind of see the Falcius play because you don't need to ramp into mana to play it.
Yeah, so and it accomplishes everything that you're trying to set up, and it leaves you. And that's just one example because I'm looking at it.
But if you're trying to ramp into a 4 thing, I would definitely play it. But if you're just playing a 3 mana thing, I can see that.
Yeah. Look, this is what the podcast is for. I just don't want to I don't want to make a hard and fast rule like always play Mystic Healer on turn 1 no matter what, because it's the only 2-drop card and part of these arguments are a little contrived, right? We're talking about Azure Herald and Mystic Healer way too much because some decks don't even run those cards. Some decks are running completely different cards with completely different scenarios that do 100% of the time. They're there for, Gloom Chaser. All it's there for is to hit on turn 1. It's all it ever lived for. Just play it on turn 1.
Well, that's why we're not talking about those cards.
Now, would you play Primus Fist on turn 1, Jason?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because, Primus Fist, and that goes into the style of deck. If I'm playing Primus Fist, I'm playing an aggro deck. That means I do want to get bodies on the board because maybe I have 2 Primus Fists and I need to trigger it on a creature, and my creature is going to be the first Primus Fist. I mean, and it's acknowledging what you're doing, right? And what the card says it does and what you want to do if you put it in the deck. And healing card like a Herald or a Mystic, they're there to recoup. So you tell me, person that built the deck, which is more important? Do you need to recoup because of something you're going to do? Is it just there passively because it's something that you sometimes want to like? And that's the point. There's a good amount of decks that just put those cards in because they just want the option should it arise. The option should arise. And you're right, Jeremy. That is more often, that is by and large, whatever the number is, more often than the scenarios I'm laying out. But the point is some decks are going to be built more tightly, like the one that I've been playing, where that's not the case. It's not just I just have it here happenstantially because I built goodstuff.deck. I went around and said, oh, look, everyone's playing these cards. They're all good. They all have utility. I'll put them together and I'll probably do okay. It's not what I did. Not what I did. I don't care about that. I have a strategy here, and they all have a place, you know?
I can smell a match with that deck after this podcast already.
I'm sure.
I'm going to play all value 2-drops.
Yeah.
That's
no
not
value.
That's surprisingly not that good. I've tried that before. It's funny because
if you just play 3 2-drops with 6 mana, it's not that great.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Even though you'd think like, well, all this value, it should add up into something great.
Right. But now my hand's empty and I've got nothing else to do.
So after we both disagreed for turn 1 for so long, what do you do on the next turn, Jeremy?
I'm not sure I want to tell you, Jason, because I feel as though you're gonna just say no, and here's why that's wrong.
Well, look, you told me this is all. Don't think that I'm downing on you. I don't disagree with you in any way that.
I mean, I don't want to make this turn 1 so long, but how about on the other side? Do you guys? I find myself.
It's our outro music. I'm hearing. I didn't mute that.
I find myself when I'm going second, and maybe this is mainly. It's a lot of times it's when I'm playing Songhai, but I'll end up rather than taking the middle tile, I will place a minion up top ready to get one of those corner tiles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good rule. And we've mentioned that before a little bit, I think. And here, Jeremy, I'm gonna throw this out there for you to disagree with me. Here's a hard and fast rule. If you have a battle pet like an Ooze or a Pax, it always goes on the center tile in front of your general. And if you don't have a battle pet, it always goes on one of those edge tiles to take one of those north or south mana springs. That's a hard and fast. I live by that rule. Whenever I see
even if you
read,
want to play 2-2-drops on your first turn.
Well, how are you playing 2-2-drops on your first turn if you're on?
Do you mean
the play?
You on the? I thought we were talking about being on the draw.
Is that what Kevin said? Did he say draw? I assume.
Yeah, we're going second.
Too.
Oh, I see. Oh, that is more interesting. I misunderstood.
If you're player 2, you play on the top. You go up and play one of your minions on the top column. That way, it can next turn it can go and take that mana orb if it's still there. If your opponent didn't try and take it with something else.
That's a gamble. That's a big gamble.
I find it's a lot. I find it like when you're trying to protect the minion to a point.
Yeah.
Rather than just placing it in the middle, because like you're saying, it protects from that turn 2 Falcius that the other person's gonna play. Because a lot of times the other player will play a 2-drop, and then you'll play your dude in the middle, and then they move their general up 2 more spaces, they move their other dude up, and they can just kill your thing for free. So a lot of times I'll put it on the top to kind of preserve it.
Counter to the side that they played their first creature on.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you can do to make up for the fact that if your opponent plays a 2-drop when they're going first, they get to develop the board. That minion, unless you're playing something with rush, is going to get to move and or attack before your stuff does. A way to negate that is to play your first minion where theirs can't get it, right? So they don't get a first attack with it. Like what you want to do when you're positioning things, especially in the early part of the game, is you want to try to get it so that your opponent isn't the one that gets to decide what trades and what attacks into what, where they have to come to you and then you get to move up and make that decision. Now that doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes your opponent's like, fine, I'm not coming towards you, you can come to me. But in that first part of the game, you can leverage the fact that your opponent is going to try to take the middle part of the board. And if you play your minion kind of a little back where they can't hit it with their first minion, and then you get to decide if you want to trade it in or if you want to attack theirs, you can kind of offset a little bit of that initial board control they have. Because usually if you play a 2-drop right on that tile right in front of you, it's going to die unless it's, Silverguard Knight or something like that, right? Otherwise,
even then, depending on what they're playing, they'll just tempo kill it, and then at that point you can be in trouble.
Right. And so it's almost better to play the Silverguard at an angle, kind of behind you, or something where they don't get to make the decision.
Yeah.
You always want
to. I find a lot of times, unless I'm playing like 2-2-drops, like I'm playing one on the center tile and then I'll play another one at angle.
Yep.
A lot of times I just won't take that middle tile because it goes to waste a lot of time. Like, yeah, they can get it, but I'd rather them, I don't know, like I'd rather have my minion in a more tactful area.
Yeah. You want to try to lure your opponent to give up that decision.
Yeah, I've done that. It's a gamble, and it goes again to like, what are they playing? What are you playing? Because you can kind of, depending on what tier you're at, you can really kind of sniff out the deck that they're playing just by what they play turn one and where they put it, right? And which is also an interesting conversation, perhaps for another day. But if they play, if they're Abyssian and they play Abyssal Crawler on the back flank and walk forward, you can go like, okay, that, Shadow Creep.
That is a Nocturne deck.
Right. Well, 100%. Like, if you see me do that, you can know you kill that Abyssal Crawler because I'm going to get so much value. You're going to bleed out your ears trying to catch up. But in that case, like, you can freely kind of not put something on that. I mean, honestly, like, I always feel a little insulted when somebody does like what you're saying, Kevin, because I think like, oh, you think I'm not going to take that freaking tile from you? I'm going to take that tile, and I'm going to take the one on the side, and you know what? I might even go up north and take that other tile. I might just slurp them up. Just take all these tiles out of your butt, and so you can't have any. I always get a little offended. I guess
a lot of times it doesn't really matter to me if they take it or not, just because if they don't, I can get a ramp. If they do, sometimes they're spreading out their minion. Like if they're playing their minion on the bottom tile and I place mine like up above, they're spreading out their dudes. So
yeah,
I'll do that. I'll do it a lot of times, and I usually do it song high. I'll do that like if I'm playing Katara or something like that.
Yeah,
where I don't, obviously you don't play Katara right in front of your general because it's just gonna get killed for like free. But there's a lot of versatility when you place it on that top, because you can get the tile if they don't get it, miss Dragon Seal, killing it. Just, it can get insane, man. But
yeah, they have to sacrifice their positioning if they want to take a bunch of tiles on that second turn.
And a lot of times I don't know that they can make that much use out of it. Like, rather than like they can put out a lot of little dudes, like if they had that, but if they're trying to like ramp into a bigger dude, a lot of times they'll have to play a minion on top of the tile just to take it.
Right. Yeah, because they don't have enough stuff to take all of them. They might be able to take
Yeah.
2 of them. But yeah, so I think if you're going second, there's a lot more. I think, I don't know, for me, I probably take that middle tile, I don't know, around half the time. It just depends on what I have to play, because whatever I play on that tile, almost definitely is going to die. But sometimes you're okay with that because you want to prevent your opponent from ramping. And so the minion they played on one of the corner tiles that they were planning on taking, they're like, oh, now I got to walk straight forward to kill that minion, and you prevent them from ramping, which is a thing to keep in mind too, that, if you have something that you just want to delay them so that you can maybe get something out bigger first, like that's a valuable thing to keep in mind too, that sometimes taking the middle tile isn't about ramping at that moment. It's preventing your opponent from taking one of the top or bottom tiles because they want to kill that thing. And so they're thinking, well, I'm going to keep the board clear. And you're like, great, now I get to play the first 4-drop and kill your other thing too, because it's usually close enough to your general for you to take it out.
And I think this kind of brings us to our second turn.
What? I had so much to say. Oh man, I was.
Go for it.
Oh no, it's fine, man. Next time I'll talk about turn 1 for 20 minutes. That's fine.
I think it's been longer than that.
No, it's definitely been longer.
Second turn, I feel,
and that's our podcast.
Gonna...
Everybody, thank you so much for listening to Turn 1 with Duel-cast.
Subscribe to us on iTunes. And
2 main turns, unless you're playing something funky and you're playing like Vessel Crawler, like way in the back, and I don't know what you're doing at that point, but
you take it easy, man. Winning the game is what you're doing. Man,
shots fired.
No, I mean I do too, but I just like you move them to a corner, like there's not much else, and you're just like moving them to a different spot.
Yeah.
But like if you played a 2-drop, then you have a little more options than if you just played nothing. Then you might play like a Falcius and come up and smack their dude if they played it on the center tile, or if you care about ramping into your 4-drop or something, that's when you move down. Like I don't know that there's much more to talk about as far as going second. Like either you're trying to kill their minion that they just played, or you're trying to ramp into something.
Well, I think also you mentioned your opponent didn't play something on turn 1, and the scenario that Jay gave where I'm planning on playing Falcius on my second turn. If you play your minions defensively, you negate that play. Like if they can't hit your minion with their general, they can't.
Yeah.
Like then Jason's got to make the decision: do I play Falcius for no value? And maybe not, depending on what else is in the hand.
Jason, are you going turn 2, not playing anything? What
are your thoughts? Oh yeah, guys.
Whoa,
my gosh.
You thought I was done talking about doing nothing for a turn? Oh man, I'll go 3, 4, 5 turns just sitting on my thumb. I will burn cards. I'm the guy that you just see cards pop off the deck and go into nothing. I just throw it in because I don't need 30 cards, 40 cards to beat my opponent. I need like 2, just 2 good cards.
When you're holding a thunderclap, who needs anything else, right?
Who needs anything? No, you don't. Sometimes I'll play 2 Azure Heralds on turn 2, just trying to catch up, trying to bail myself out. Just gain 6 life for nothing and deal with my 1/4s. You thought 1/4 was hard to deal with on turn 1? Try to deal with 2 on turn 2, my friend. It is out of control. I can't tell you how many times.
Yeah.
No, you don't do nothing.
Would you play Falcius? Like if you had no other, like you didn't play a turn 1 play, and you were expecting them to play a minion on the center tile or something in reach of your general, and all you had was Falcius for turn 2 play. Would you play Falcius?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, it would
Right.
feel bad. It would have
Yeah.
all those feel bads, but
Yeah, I would.
you can't
Yeah.
you can't do nothing for 5 turns in a row and think
Yeah.
think you're gonna be in the
And I
game.
think that's the important thing. Like, you don't want to do that, right? Like, in a perfect world, you'd rather have a different 2-drop. You'd rather have a different 3-drop because you do want to get that value. But at a certain point, you have to kind of divorce yourself from the how bad that feels, and like, well, this is better than the alternative of nothing, right? Like a 3-drop for a 3/3 for 3 is better than a burning another 3 mana. And it sometimes it is hard to do. Like, you don't want to do that because that's not why the card's in your deck. That's not why, what you're trying to do. But otherwise, you're probably not winning that game if you can't make that play, right? Like, if you can't say this is terrible, but it's better than the alternative. If you can't do that, you probably just lose, right? If you're not willing to do that, your opponent's like, fine, I don't care what you do next turn.
I know.
Unless you got a board sweep or something. But
I know me and Jason, the last game we played against each other, really, really close and tough game. He ended up pulling it out. But I remember I had a terrible hand and I was going second, and I played a Falcius up in the corner, and
Maybe
I got
the
that
reason
feel
why
bad.
I won.
No, it was not the reason you won.
Little bit of a lucky
But-
lucky respawn. I think of.
No. He made me feel bad about it. That's for sure.
I'm sure
And
it's what he admitted his
and
goal
he
was
still
that.
is. He still is. He's like, yeah, he'll
That was totally the
Chelsea.
reason you lost, man.
Look, you're the one bringing it up that you had the feel bad
I'm
start.
just
I'm
saying. I'm just relating to what Jeremy was just saying. It's feel bad, man.
Although, in terms of ramping, I believe that game you did get Cataclysmic
Oh,
Fall
you know
down
what?
a turn early.
I did. See, there we go, boys. That's why you play Falcius for no value.
Right. Well, because sure, you didn't lose the game because you played Falcius for no value. You lost the game maybe because your draw was bad and you had to play Falcius for no value. Like, again,
it's
it's not
Definitely,
it's not Falcius.
none of
for
the
no value.
options are because Jason's a really good player.
No, it definitely my draw.
None of the options.
Like,
Well, that's not what I meant.
I like how you're going on like, let me think of reasons
I
why
had
Jason would have beaten you, Kevin.
I had 3 Blood of Heirs in the deck. Did not see one. That's all I needed.
That was a little bit of a. Although look,
And I got my shrouds. I got my Azure Heralds. I got my it's cool. It's cool.
Although we've all had those games.
Really good game. It was a really good game.
Yeah, it was. I think that you put it in the YouTube video from last week, right?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So if people want to see it, it's one of those 20 games.
It's one of those.
I don't know what time frame. It's Vitruvian versus Vanar, I think.
I had, and as an aside, I've had a couple. I don't know about you guys, but I had a couple like really crazy games this week that'll appear in this video at some whatever sequence Kevin puts them in. But a couple really crazy games that I remember just thinking, man, this is...
Right there, Jason. That's where I'm gonna put it. Right there.
All right, you'll just end whatever. Other
And
game.
whatever game was playing. And
It's just
boom.
it's gonna be like one of Jeremy's games. He's gonna play Azure Herald turn 1. Just cut out. Just gonna...
I want nothing more in life than.
Yeah.
But how about that? You guys have anything else to say about turn 2? Turn 3.
I think it's just kind of to say you want to be very mindful of, you want to either try to ramp or play your minions in a way that's makes your opponent have to come to you if they want to kill them or use removal, right? You never want to just play your stuff up front unless you need them to trade their stuff into yours, because you don't have a way to deal with it otherwise.
I feel like Lionel is kind of one of those exceptions because they just like
Yeah.
lay all their stuff in your face. Like they don't
Right,
care.
they got
Right.
big butt stuff that doesn't
They don't care
usually
about your
trade one
feelings.
for one early on.
Yeah.
He's a brick house. That's what.
And then they play that Azurite lion like in the back, and you're just like, come on, man. Got no removal, and you're just waiting for him to combo and deal like 12 damage. It's just
Right.
it's frustrating, man. But
Yeah.
enough of that. How about turn 3? We got any sweet tips?
Turn 3.
Well, I think
I might have been wrong. Turn 3 gets pretty out
Is
of
that
reach
when
of a lot of scenarios.
yeah, by that point,
You get pretty
like
crazy.
anything could be happening. I mean, there could be a lot of stuff going on.
Depending on if you play Azure Hair. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't play a 2-drop, your options are
Should
limited.
we go over all the scenarios? And
No,
like,
we should not ever do that.
all
I
right,
don't
if
think
you play Azure Herald and move it one space up, then you got
To
A, C, D.
4.
Now, if you don't play Azure Herald and you just move forward, you have no options. Let me tell you.
And that's it. Those are the
That's it.
really the all of the options, all the potential game states you could have.
Yeah.
Have you guys run the full regression analysis on that, or I feel like you're just spitballing? I feel like those aren't real numbers.
No, the data came back. You have no options if you don't play a 2-drop.
That's what Watson said. We ran it through Watson, and he was like, "Yeah."
And you lose 100% of the time.
Oh man.
Seems unbalanced. I don't know.
I mean, it's skewed. Not gonna lie.
Just gotta take our word for it, Jay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what about the late game? Let's go over like one late game scenario. And then we spent too much time talking about turn 1.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Who knew we were so passionate about the beginning of the game?
I know. I did not think we'd hear that much.
Nope.
I think we spent like 40 minutes on turn 1.
Yep.
We did.
You should not be thinking about turn 1 as much as we talked about it.
I mean,
You
but I
get
hope
to
you
a
learned
point
something,
where-
right?
Yeah, usually you should get to a point where turn 1 and 2, you know, you have it's kind of a real
Autoplay.
quick. There's a few options,
Yeah.
and you're able to run through them pretty quick after you've been doing it for a while. You just know, this is my standard opening play, most of the time, and then if I need to deviate from that, I think about it. But otherwise, you don't want to be spending a ton of time thinking your first few turns.
Unless you want to rope your opponent and just make them mad. They're like,
Right. Like you walk forward, play a 2-drop, and then just wait.
Yeah.
And transitioning to the end of the game, nothing tilts me. This happened to me in ladder, or I think this was. I don't know if this was. No, this wasn't the game I just played, but not ladder. Gauntlet. I've been playing a little bit of Gauntlet. This happened to me yesterday night. The last game I played. It just tilts me, man. Tilts me when like you go. It goes to that whole the whole. Okay, well they either kill me here or I'm gonna kill them next turn. And then it was like they had to have a removal spell for a creature that I had like positioned to block off, and they like sat there for like I don't know, 30 seconds or something, just like sitting there, like you could see the cursor moving around, like they're playing out some thoughts, and the guy was just was playing out how they wanted to kill me apparently because they had a removal spell and they were. They just, after like 30 seconds, they kill the thing and they go to walk forward, and I just conceded, and I was just so annoyed
They want that. See, like you start at the beginning of the game, they start their BM at the end of the game,
Yeah.
so that when they rematch you, you're so disheartened you just concede right away.
That's next level online.
Yeah.
Head thought stuff.
Have you guys, I mean, this is a little off topic, but have you guys ever done that, like, or run into someone who's done that in like Magic, like right in front of you, where they'll just like, they have the win, but they won't. they won't do it. Like I feel like it's
Oh yeah.
more of an online thing.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be a special kind of person to do that when the person's sitting across from you. Like you're a special person if you.
Special.
But yeah, online it's a lot easier because you're not
At
making
least-
eye contact.
At least when it's in person, at least for me, I would always just like to bring them along the ride and be like, hey, look,
Oh,
just bear
yeah,
with me.
yeah.
Bear with me here for a second. I'm gonna do something. It sucks for everybody. I mean, I don't want to do it. You don't want to see it happen, but I just have to do it because I have to go over. You see those guys over there that are all snickering? I have to go over and tell them how I stomped you at the very end. So just sit there for a second. I'm gonna make you regret having been a child of your parents and disgrace their name. But I just need to do this. I gotta, make 1,000 tokens or go infinite, or I have to do it because I have to tell those people over there how much of a loser you are. Okay, and it's gotta be. I mean, but to be fair, you're not just any loser. You're like the biggest one I've ever met in my whole life. So you have that going for you. So let me just finish this little combo here.
And so you're an even more special person. And you're the person that I love, like that starts doing that kind of stuff, and I just pick up all my cards and concede. Like, good game.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
You're disappointing the families.
there should really be a reveal hand button. I think that'd be okay, where you can just like you play your couple plays and you just reveal your hand. You're like, look, dude, I got the nuts. Let's try not to try hard or just anything. Like, I mean, it could backfire. It could backfire.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be able to reveal your hand in the middle of a game because you can.
I mean, I don't think it'd be that big. It'd be like a lock button on it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe it could be like the game, like when the game has the you know how like certain minions or creatures are highlighted when they still have actions. The game should just monitor the state, and when you have lethal, it should just go on and be like, "Oh
no,
you have lethal.
Not do that.
Why don't you just go ahead and show your hand?"
No, because I don't want my opponent to have autopilot. Like, they may not see it.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not obvious.
Miss
lethals are a real thing, and I've seen a lot watching you, Jason.
Man, tell you what.
Sorry.
But I think like
my back.
Nothing to do with like.
He's scared.
I think like in Magic, their online client has a reveal hand option after the game's over.
Yeah.
And even like drawing additional cards. Like, what's my next card? Would I have one or not? Like, sometimes you want to do that too, but I don't think you want to have that option while the game's going on, because
I guess I just know it saved a lot of time in Magic, where it'd be like, listen, do you like have a counter or something? I'm like, because I have like 5 burn spells, man. Right. You're not gonna survive. Like, can you kill me this turn? I mean, I think we always say that in draft, right? When we had those drafts, we'd be like, can you kill me this turn because I'm gonna win next turn? There's like,
well, but I feel like to me, I'm like, then do it, like, because when we play with each other, I mean, I trust you guys, but when you're playing against someone you don't know, they might just be playing mind games. Like, they got nothing. They got all just blanks, and they're trying to sneak one, hoping that you'll concede. And I feel like that just creates an environment that you don't need to.
I almost wish there was a chat bar. I think it'd be very toxic.
Oh my gosh.
But I almost wish there was a chat bar.
A few things more toxic than the chat and Magic Online.
Magic?
Really? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But it makes for a good time, good stories, right?
No.
Yeah, no.
This makes you hate humanity. This makes you think.
Yeah, like, wow. Yeah, I don't think we want to advocate for a chat.
All right. That's good. Right.
Well, because there technically is a chat. Like, you can friend an opponent.
That's true. That is
and
true.
then start chatting to them.
As a matter of fact,
a few steps, but
Yeah, and I told you guys, like, the first person that ever friended me in Duelist in the client did it for that sole purpose. I was like, oh, this guy's friending me. Oh, that's neat because I was new to the thing. Oh, hey, what's this guy have to say? Oh, what's that? I should, what did he say? He said,
Something about die in your own piss or something.
it was, he wanted me to inject the urine of my dead grandfather. Yeah. I was like, what? And then he unfriended me. And I was like,
yeah. So if you can imagine to make that easier, that's
a bad time. I completely forgot about the friend thing. That it's cool.
Yeah. But. And that's the reason why I never friend anyone immediately after a game. I'll always like wait, you know, if they send me a friend request like a few beats after, like, then I will. But
yeah, I've had some people friend me and they just want to say, man, that was a good game. I didn't get good draws, but yeah, there's always that person that's like a moment after they concede, like, must be nice to. It is nice beating people like yours face in. It's wonderful.
Gonna sleep so good tonight. Just
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think we talk about late game. I think
it's gonna be part 2. It's gonna be part 2.
Well, I mean, I feel like late game is also, there's a lot of scenarios, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if there's more than one scenario, it's going to take us at least 3 hours.
That's true. The only one we'll talk about is when you have meltdown on the board and there's 2 other things and running through the odds of whether that's broken or not.
I had someone meltdown me in Gauntlet the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
it's still a good card in Gauntlet." It's a big dude that does stuff.
Yeah, I had a guy. What was that broken card that we were talking about? Oh, Bloodsworn Gambler. I had a guy.
I love that card so much.
That in draft. Gauntlet. Gauntlet. It cleared my board, man. It just.
I want to rephrase what I just said. I love that card when I'm playing it. I don't like it when my opponent plays it.
It's just like your removal is you have none or limited, and you're just I can't kill it.
Right.
I can't.
It's really only a problem in Gauntlet because no one plays it in ladder because you have removal in ladder. Like, I'm going to kill that, and you wasted 4 mana for nothing. In Gauntlet, however, it can be pretty ridiculous.
If
you ever get to put a killing edge on it and then attack.
I had an opponent that just gave it. He was playing Magmar and it gave it +2/+2, whatever that name of that is, in a lineup.
Greater Fortitude.
And the first attack dealt 12 damage. 12 damage. I was just like, I lost that game, and it was again like everything you just said. Like, I don't have immediate removal for that. Eventually, I was able to kill it, but I'd already taken so much damage.
So then you friended him immediately after and told him what?
Oh, I said, sir, I appreciate all that you're doing for the game, and I really hope that you continue to contribute in a positive manner as you just did. And may the RNG gods forever never allow that stupid card to attack less than 2 times. I told him to go buy a lottery ticket and buy a mansion with the winnings, like,
and then send a selfie to you with him just winking at you.
Like, please, just I want to hear about all of the success that you didn't earn in your whole life. What I want.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this installment, I think.
Just us complaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop us right there, and thanks for everyone for joining us again. We'll talk about some more scenarios coming up, and we will start getting more of those video podcasts or video casts out there with some of our games and stuff like that. If you want to subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Play. We do have a Twitter account, not a Twit account.
Wow.
Twit is something else. Don't Google it. You won't like it. But our Twitter is at Duel_cast. If you want to check out the survey we have out there right now about kind of our impressions of Unearthed Prophecy after the fact and a few other things that are new in the game, like diamonds and all that kind of stuff, you can check that out on our website, duel-cast.com. And we post on Reddit, in the Duelist subreddit. We are u/duel-cast on there as well. And if you didn't guess, our YouTube channel is also Duel-cast. It's one word. So you can find us in a bunch of places. We're trying to get a bunch of stuff out there so that whatever you're into, we're going to have it for you. And want to definitely get feedback from you. So if you want to send us a comment on Reddit.
Our Reddit is just Duel-cast, no hyphen. You Duel-cast.
Okay. And we want to know what you guys think about the videos, about the podcast, about the survey. Go fill out the survey. Tell us.
You said subscribe on YouTube?
I didn't.
Subscribe on YouTube.
If you want to.
No,
there's going to be a lot of cool content coming up on that.
Yeah, man. It's going to be all the podcast stuff plus more.
Plus more.
And
I'm sorry, you were saying about the poll.
Yeah, go fill it out. Larry, if you're listening, if you're awake,
yeah,
please, Kevin needs you, man. And yeah, so that's it. Go find us, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks, Jay, for your point and counterpoint, as always.
You're welcome.
That was very apprehensive. You're like, this is a trap?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but I'll accept it as it is.
It's all an act, Jay. I really don't hate your guts.
No, I know. I know you say you don't.
And thanks, Kev, for being the voice of reason when Jay and I are
yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
He's Nocturne, and we're just the orbs in his hand.
We're Trump and Kim Jong-un. So.
Okay. All right, end it, please.
Oh, I'll end it when I'm good and ready. I'm ready now. We'll talk to you guys.
I'm doing the editing.